Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Pi Records, and I'm here with Clark Starries from Wiped Out. How are you, Clark?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Oh, no problem. I gotta say, I checked out both your singles, um, and the new one, "Sweet Almond Eyes," is a fantastic representation of a tribute to the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean and music of that era.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you got to that point from being an instrumental band to adding vocals. And the vocals are fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, yeah, I guess that's a good way to just sort of start explain how Wiped Out got started as a musical project for me. Um, I started it in March of 2020, so almost a year ago now is when I first got the idea to start a surf band. And uh, I guess I had always been interested in the genre, and I listened to a lot of the 60s surf music, all the traditional stuff like the Dick Dales and the Ventures and the Astronauts and those sorts of bands. And of course, like I always loved the Beach Boys ever since like high school. Um, and I kind of, I consider them related in my mind, though I know that like, some people consider instrumental surf one thing and Beach Boys surf kind of completely separate. Um, but anyway, I had gotten the idea to kind of do an instrumental surf band, and I was starting to uh, form the band and get some musicians together. I had a drummer friend and a friend who played bass, and we had a show booked for June 2020 was going to be our first show. And obviously, with the pandemic and with COVID, we all know what happened then. So obviously that show got canceled, and the hope of playing any other shows with this project completely went out the window. So that led me to be like, okay, well, what can I do, during a pandemic? So I recorded some songs. Um, I wrote some original tunes and recorded them, and they were instrumental at first because I actually don't really consider myself much of like a lead singer, or I never was really before. And that sort of, I was just like, I can do the surf stuff like almost by myself with the help of a drummer, which is what I did. And then um, I put a few songs out, and some people like seem to dig it. It got a few thousand plays on Spotify. And then I was like, okay, well, now that I've put like a few songs out as instrumental, I was just starting to feel like I wanted to do more with it, or I wanted to have the freedom to do more with it. Um, so that's when I was like, let me try like a Beach Boys style song. And I was super nervous about doing it because I didn't know if it would suck. I didn't know if like anyone who had heard the first three songs that I released, like if they would hate that. So, but I just figured I can't worry about that. Especially as still a new artist, like I have to just um, do what I want to do creatively. And if that includes like vocals or taking inspiration from like Beach Boys or Jan and Dean, like then that's what I'm gonna do. And just like I don't really care if you know I don't really care what anyone thinks about it, and I'll just do it. And hopefully there's people that are into it.
So when you talk about the instrumental stuff, where did you I know you said the Ventures and Dick Dale, but was there a particular guitarist that you drew inspiration from?
Yeah, I definitely think Dick Dale. It's like I know it's maybe not the most interesting answer, but it's true. Like, and I actually discovered Dick Dale. Obviously, I guess I knew Miser Lou and some of the classic stuff, but I had actually listened to like the '90s Dick Dale, and that was sort of really the stuff that like kind of blew my mind as far as like what it could be like. Like there's the Ventures and the Astronauts and those types of bands, and it's sort of like very chill almost, like it's not very extreme, it's very melodic, and it's sort of like, tiki bar, sort of kitschy like that. But like Dick Dale, especially like 90s Dick Dale was like heavy. It was like punk. It was like metal, like, and obviously it was surf, but it was just like, it was so extreme. And I remember I turned on the album, the 93, I think it's like a 93 or 96. I think it's called Calling Up Spirits. Do you know that record?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the record that I was listening to. And when I did the first song for Wiped Out, I put that record on and I showed my drummer, and I was like, so this is what I'm going, and the drummer is also the producer. And so I was like, this is what I'm going for with this. And I turned it on, and then he listened to the whole song. I think we listened to Nitro, and we listened to the whole thing, and he was just like, so just as crazy as possible. And I was just like, yep, just no rules, as crazy as possible,
And I think your song "Waves of Panic"
Yeah, Waves of Panic was that song.
is totally. It has more of a punky feel,
Yeah,
which of course I love, and the 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 tempo. It's a little bit more upbeat and aggressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that that's sort of where I imagined the band going for the most part. And I took this Sweet Almond Eyes like detour, and like I don't really know necessarily where it's all going, but like I in my mind I sort of like juggle, like should my next song be a vocal song, or should it be like a punk surf song? Like I don't know, you know.
Um, is most of your background in surf, but also in punk rock?
It's actually mostly in punk rock. So like, yeah. So I grew up playing in rock and punk bands. Um, and like, and when I say that, I guess I should give that some context. Like I played my first show with a band when I was like 11 years old, which was in 1999. And I, I was playing like Green Day covers and Blink-182 covers and like Limp Bizkit covers back in those days, like that's sort of my earliest start, is like that late 90s sort of rock music. And then in college, like my high school, college years, was when there was like the big sort of like emo, screamo boom in music. And so you had like, the My Chemical Romance or the Fall Out Boy sort of period of music. And that was sort of like where I was coming at music from. Like, I was in a band that when I was in college, we toured around the country and we played Warped Tour, and we played Bamboozle, like the Bamboozle Festival. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But we played some big shows in that scene, like the emo punk scene. And so that's where I was coming at all of this from. And then it wasn't really till I was an adult that I sort of became interested in like surf music and, instrumental surf and that kind of stuff. So it was sort of like, now I'm in my early 30s, and that's sort of like, I just started this band a year ago. So like that tells you how long it took me to sort of get into this genre.
So you put these records out yourself?
Yeah.
Is there vinyl, or is it digital, or where can people find this?
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously I definitely am on all of like the Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all of the digital platforms. And I do have some 7 inches of Waves of Panic currently for sale. It's on a clear vinyl through Bandcamp. And so, but it's like a self-released thing. And actually, there's that brings me to a perfect point that I wanted to sort of plug here. Um, I don't know when you plan on publishing this, but I think it's fine for me to talk about because on March 2nd, which is next Tuesday, I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign to try to help fund a vinyl version of Sweet Almond Eyes on a 7-inch. So it will be 3 songs on blue vinyl. I'm gonna launch a Kickstarter. Again, like the record industry is hard, and I know how hard it is to sell records, and especially in this day and age, and when everyone can just stream whatever they want for free. So it's hard. I think it's a big challenge to sell physical records, but it's something that I'm interested in and that I want to try to do. So I'm going to be launching this Kickstarter, and the goal is to produce 300 300 7-inches. And I have no idea if that's possible. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I have no clue if the audience is out there. Like, I've gotten like 16,000 streams of Sweet Almond Eyes on Spotify, but I don't know if that means that 300 people will buy it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and that's just honest. Go ahead.
I just, man, I know how hard it is to sell records. Even if you're promoting the hell out of them, it's a lot to get it into people's houses.
Yeah. And so like for me, I don't know if this trying to sell 300 records before they're even produced on a Kickstarter is possible, but I'm gonna try it. And who knows, maybe we'll find some nice people who want to support surf music and want to support this project. So I'm gonna give it a shot. And I'm gonna reach out to the surf community. Like, I know, as hard as I think it is to sell records these days, I know that the audience of this type of music can be very passionate, you know. Like those guys that buy Surfer Joe records and Messer Chup records and Black Flamingos and Satan's Pilgrims and all those types of bands. I know that they're out there. Whether they'll buy my records, I don't know, or whether they'll be into it, I don't know. But that's the scene that like I'm hoping to break into with this project.
Very cool. Very cool. I want to talk to you about your gear a little bit.
Yeah.
What's your rig like?
So so it all starts with the Fender Jaguar for me. Like I when I got that guitar, that was sort of like, I think that was really what sort of started me. I just got it like last year, and I started thinking about how the perfect use for this would be a surf band, and so it all started with the Fender Jaguar for me, and then I have an amp. The only amp that I have is an orange Tiny Terror, which you wouldn't think of as a surf amp, but it actually has some really nice cleans that I always considered to be pretty Fendery. If you roll the gain back, turn the volume up a little bit, all of a sudden it's this really nice clean tone, and you got a Fender guitar plugged into a clean amp. I mean, it sounds nice. And then to get the reverb, I bought a Fender Traverb pedal. Do you know those?
Yep.
So they're like, it's a digital pedal, or I guess it's a digital pedal. Maybe it's analog. I don't know. But certainly not tube, and it's certainly not real spring reverb. But it sounds pretty good, and for me at my stage of playing with this band and with this project, like that was sort of enough. Like, uh, I got some pretty good sounds on the records with it. Um, I think that, people would be surprised that I was using an orange amp and, I just like a Fender reverb pedal. But certainly, like, I love all the cool stuff that Surfer Joe has, with the reverb tanks from like 63 or 64 and the Showmans and all the stuff that like Dick Dale would actually use. I love that shit, but I just like, it's not practical for me to buy like a reverb tank for $700 and I'm not even playing any shows. Like, it's just crazy. Um, but it'd be cool to have. I love it. Like, I love all that stuff.
That's awesome. It's my rig is all Fender. I'm
Yeah.
not really a surf player, but I could see the draw for for the clean sound. It's just the Fender and the Fender, the amp and the guitar sound wonderful
Yeah.
together. But I also have an orange amp myself.
Yeah. What kind of orange amp do you have?
It's I think it's 30 watts. It's a solid state. There's nothing really big about it.
Okay.
Um, but it does have an unusual sound, but I really like it. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
guess,
they're nice. I mean, they're one of the big manufacturers for a reason too. Um, so, especially I think if you're coming from a different type of background, you might not necessarily have like a Fender amp. Obviously Fenders are great for clean tones and for surf tones and things like that, but they're not necessarily great for like punk or uh, harder music, a lot of times. I mean, they can be, but it's not what you
the,
think of.
the one I have has great gain on it. I love it.
Yeah.
So but the reverb and the clean sound is just amazing. Um,
Yeah.
so what are you working on now besides the Kickstarter for um the
For the Sweet Hominides. Yeah.
nice. Are you
Yeah.
writing new music?
I am writing new music. I have like a few songs in my head. Um, and I think I plan on releasing them maybe around Memorial Day or maybe around June, like sometime in the beginning of summer, I guess. Um, so since I started this project um, last March, I guess the first release that I put out was in June 2020, which had 2 songs, and then I put out one more song in September, and then I put out 3 more songs in January. So I've been kind of like putting them out as fast as I can. Not as fast as I can write. I can write them faster, but it's more like having the funds to like record them and get them out. I also try to like promote them, as much as I can with like Facebook ads and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Um, so I always try to make it as professional a release as I can on my own. Um, so I try to get some nice artwork for it. So I hire like this German artist named Julian Weber, has done this great artwork for us so far. Um, and I pay for studio time, so all of it has costs, and that's really the most limiting factor for me in putting out music. Like, but that being said, I think I've done an okay job at sort of just like putting out as much as I can.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but I want to know how you one of the things that I like to connect is with the surf community. And you watched the interview with Surfer Joe. What has his music and his presence meant for you when it comes to the surf community?
Yeah, like him specifically, was somebody who, when I first started looking into modern surf music, he just like came up in my internet searches, and I was like, who is this guy from Italy? You wouldn't think Italy is very surfish, right? But you know, I realized once I found him and did some research on him, I saw how passionate he was about surf music and traditional surf music. He's really like a traditionalist and he loves all of that stuff. And so I always love to hear his interviews and hear him talk about it. And then you know, obviously his festival that he does in Italy is one of the biggest surf festivals in the world, I think. So that is obviously important for the community to have sort of a rallying place to meet and sort of all get behind. Um, you know, I've reached out to him a few times. I've reached out to a few people within the surf community since I started this band. I have spoken to Lorenzo a few times through emails and DMs and stuff. I've spoken to like Svetlana from Messer Chops. Um, yeah, I've talking to, you know, the owner of High Tides Records, Vincent. Uh, so, and I've reached out to a few of these guys, you know, and I want to be part of their world. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you know, I hope that eventually the band is part of that community, is part of when you say those bands, when you're like, you know, the Messer Chops and Surfer Jets and who's another one? Most Straight Jackets. When you, I want to be in that string of bands when you say talk about the modern surf stuff. You know.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much, Clark. I really enjoyed our talk, and Sweet Almond Eyes is a great new single. And
Thank
I
you.
wanted to thank you for reaching out to me, and I'm glad we had some time to talk.
Yeah, man. Thank you for doing it, and thank you for giving me this platform to talk a little bit about my music.
All right, you have a great night.
You too. Thanks, Ryan.